In August 2019, we were all told that Jeffrey Epstein, the infamous financier who supposedly knew too much, took his own life in a Manhattan jail cell. Just like that, the case was officially closed. But what if a key piece of evidence from the autopsy table tells a completely different story? There's a small, often overlooked detail from the medical examiner's own report that doesn't just challenge the suicide narrative, it puts it on trial. This single forensic finding, once you understand its significance, points toward a much darker possibility, one that officials have been quick to dismiss. But the facts, buried in medical reports and expert testimony, refuse to stay quiet. On the surface, the official story seems straightforward enough. On August 10, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein, awaiting trial on federal sex trafficking charges, was found unresponsive in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York. He was reportedly hanging from his bunk bed with a strip of bedsheet around his neck. After being rushed to a hospital, he was pronounced dead. The New York City Chief Medical Examiner, Dr.
Barbara Sampson, performed an autopsy and quickly ruled the cause of death as suicide by hanging. This conclusion was later backed up by multiple federal investigations.
In June 2023, the Department of Justice Inspector General released a massive report that, after reviewing over 100,000 documents, found no evidence to contradict the suicide ruling. The FBI's separate investigation came to the same conclusion. Then, Attorney General William Barr, while admitting there were huge failures at the prison, famously called Epstein's death a perfect storm of screw-ups, not a conspiracy. According to these official reports, Epstein was left alone after his cellmate was transferred. The two guards who were supposed to check on him every 30 minutes had completely neglected their duties, allegedly surfing the internet and sleeping for hours while faking records to cover their tracks. This negligence, the government concluded, gave Epstein the opportunity he needed. For the public, that was the story. A catastrophic system failure, but a suicide all the same. The case was closed, but it's really not that simple. Here's the but moment. One crucial detail from the autopsy report was largely sidelined by those quick to close the book on the case. It's not some wild conspiracy theory. It's a finding from inside the morgue that is profoundly difficult to square with a simple hanging. On the autopsy table, pathologists found that Jeffrey Epstein had suffered multiple fractures in his neck. This wasn't just one break. The autopsy revealed a fracture on the left side of his hyoid bone and, even more unusually, fractures on both the left and right sides of his thyroid cartilage, the structure better known as the Adam's apple. 3 separate fractures in his neck. Think of it like this. If you hang a heavy weight from a single tree branch, you expect it to snap downwards in one place. But if you find that same branch broken in 3 different spots from different angles, you might suspect it wasn't just the weight. You'd suspect someone grabbed it and twisted it apart. These 3 fractures are the anomaly, the thread that, when pulled, puts a huge question mark over the entire official story. To get why these fractures are so important, we have to turn to an expert who was actually in the room for the autopsy.
Dr. Michael Baden, a world-renowned forensic pathologist. Baden was hired by Epstein's brother to observe the procedure. His conclusion was chilling. He stated that the injuries were far more consistent with homicidal strangulation than with suicide.
Speaking about the 3 separate fractures, Dr. Baden was blunt. Those 3 fractures are extremely unusual in suicidal hangings and could occur much more commonly in homicidal strangulation. He then drew on his 5 decades as a medical examiner, saying, "I have never seen 3 fractures like this in a suicidal hanging." He claimed that in his review of over 1,000 jail hangings, not one had this combination of injuries. The hyoid is a small U-shaped bone high in the neck. In a typical hanging, the pressure pulls the body downward, creating upward force under the jaw. But to break the hyoid and thyroid cartilage in multiple places, it often requires direct horizontal pressure, like someone applying force straight on. It's the difference between a branch snapping under a heavy weight versus someone forcefully twisting it. Dr. Baden also noted other things that didn't add up for him. The ligature mark on Epstein's neck was in the center, not high up, and he felt it looked thinner than the bedsheet strip presented as the weapon. He also pointed out that while there was blood on Epstein's neck, none was found on the ligature itself. Beyond the fractures, other details cast doubt. The autopsy noted contusions on Epstein's wrists and hemorrhaging in his shoulder muscle. Burst capillaries, or petechiae, were found on his face and in his eyes, another sign often linked to strangulation. And then you have the total collapse of security.
The two guards, Tova Knoll and Michael Thomas, were charged with falsifying records to cover up that they failed to check on Epstein for about 8 hours. They later admitted it and received a deferred prosecution deal, which is like a get-out-of-jail-free card if they stay out of trouble.
Crucially, 2 cameras directly outside Epstein's cell had malfunctioned. The only footage available was from a common area, which didn't show the direct entrance to his cell tier. A CBS News analysis of the released footage found even more problems, including a missing minute of video and evidence suggesting it may have been edited. Of course, we have to look at the official stance. The chief medical examiner, Dr. Barbara Sampson, stood by her conclusion. In response to Dr. Baden's public statements, she issued a press release saying, "I stand firmly behind our determination of the cause and manner of death for Mr. Epstein. The cause is hanging, the manner is suicide." The 2023 DOJ Inspector General's report also tried to address the neck fractures. It stated that the medical examiner explained why the injuries were consistent with a suicide by hanging, and it pointed to the absence of defensive wound, like debris under Epstein's fingernails or bruises from a struggle. Other forensic experts have also argued that hyoid fractures, while not common, are more likely to occur in hangings of older men like the 66-year-old Epstein. But this creates a major clash between world-renowned experts. It's like 2 master chefs looking at the same burnt steak. The restaurant's chef says, "The oven malfunctioned, it's an accident." But the independent food critic says, "No, these burn patterns show someone held a blowtorch to it. This was done on purpose." Dr. Baden, a former chief medical examiner of New York City himself, directly challenges the official claims. He argues that age doesn't explain this specific trio of breaks. As for the lack of defensive wounds, that could be explained if an attacker was skilled, if Epstein was ambushed, or if he was somehow incapacitated. This isn't just a conspiracy theory versus an official report.
This is a profound professional disagreement between forensic pathologists looking at the exact same body. One side, backed by the state, declared it an accident and closed the case.
The other, an independent expert with immense credentials, insists the evidence points much more strongly toward homicide. This conflict, centered on the bones in Epstein's neck, is the core of the controversy. So, where does this leave us?
On one hand, you have the official narrative from the FBI and DOJ, a suicide made possible by a perfect storm of screw-ups. A story that asks us to believe that a house fire was caused by a gas leak, a faulty wire, and a lit candle all happening at once by pure chance. On the other hand, you have the silent testimony of the body itself. 3 broken bones in the neck, a pattern a top pathologist says he has never seen in a suicidal hanging in 50 years.
We have ligature marks that some say don't match the weapon, and surveillance footage that's incomplete and possibly edited. The conclusion of suicide asks us to dismiss these glaring inconsistencies and to accept a series of highly improbable coincidences. The alternative, homicide, might seem shocking, but it arguably explains the strange fractures and provides a powerful motive for why the security failures were so convenient. We may never know for certain what really happened in that cell, but the official story leaves too many gaps. The detail that changes everything isn't a rumor, it's a fact recorded in the autopsy report, the 3 broken bones. Given this deep and unresolved conflict in the evidence, can we truly accept the official story?
What do you think really happened to Jeffrey Epstein? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives that challenge the official narratives, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell.